Much like the mirror command, preference should be given to using feature-level patterning versus using the patterning tool in Sketches. However, the tool works in much the same way. We have 3 questions to answer. Number 1, what do we want to pattern? Number 2, what's the direction we want to pattern in? And what are the different options we want to choose? You can see I've got a little parallelogram drawn here on the screen and starting at the origin. And what I want to do is I want to pattern this over here to the right and pattern it up. So I'm going to choose under the Sketch tool palette, under the ribbon bar, go up to Linear Sketch Pattern, click on that. And by default, it automatically selects your x-axis and your y-axis for your 2 directions. And then you can choose what spacing you'd like. And then come down here at the bottom, it's going to ask you, what are the entities you'd like to pattern? So go over here and choose those different lines, or you can pre-select that before you choose the patterning tool anyways. And you get those 4 different lines here. They're going to be patterning along. Now come back up here to the top. Notice our spacing. As I click on the spacing, we can change that spacing here. I can also grab the little arrow. I can flip the direction if I wanted to. And I can continue increasing that number, or I can just type in a number, say maybe 3.0. How many do you want to make? So as I click this up, it just keeps adding more to the pattern. And we can set the angle we'd like to pattern it at. Right now it's at 360 degrees. We could put it at maybe 90 degrees. And that would change it. Or if I want to put it at 30 degrees, that's 30 degrees from that x-axis. So if I want to change it to 10, something like that, I can modify these patterns as I want along those different patterning lines. Once you're happy with that, if I want to continue, I can also go in the other direction. So look at this direction here, direction 2, click in there. How many do you want? Well, we want a few more. And let's increase the spacing again. This time, let's make it 2 inches, and we can pattern those up. Then I can always increase the amount I have. So you see a nice little pattern. Like again, you can adjust the angle you'd like to pattern that at. Right now it's at 90 degrees. And as I click on this little up arrow here, I can adjust that pattern away from that or modify it however I need. Once you've got all the patterns looking good, you can also come in down here and go to the very bottom and click on Instances to skip. If you click here, what it does is it gives a little pink dot on top of each item in the pattern. If you click on the dot, it just removes that item from the pattern. And sometimes your screen might not automatically update correctly when you first do it. If you just do a little zoom, it'll automatically show up. What we're doing here is we're removing all the items from the center of the pattern and click OK, and there you have it. So that's the rectangular or linear patterning tool. It's very powerful. Like I said, you can use that Instances to skip item to remove items from the pattern if you need to. You can always go back and change the pattern if you want to as well. If you click on the pattern here, you can see it's actually a pattern. And if you right click on this up here, you can say Edit Pattern. That's how you can get back into that tool. And if you want to bring some of these instances to get back, just go ahead and click and delete those items from that list to bring those all back. Click OK, and we're back at editing the pattern. We might also want to use a circular pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and open up another document here, which is 5.6-2, and you can see I have a little slot here and I have the origin laid out right here. Now what I might want to do is add a line from there to there and give it a dimension, so I'm spacing this out correctly, and I'll say 3.5, and might as well give this a 3.5 dimension as well. And don't forget to give a little dimension here, we'll say 1.0. Now we have a fully defined sketch, and now we're ready to start patterning that sketch. Come up here to Linear Pattern and click on the drop down arrow next to it and choose Circular Pattern. This case here, it's asking what do I want to pattern around. So I'm going to start with this point here. It's what I want to pattern this thing around. And then choose what are my entities. So my entities are going to be that entire sketch. And notice it gives you a preview exactly what's going to happen. I've got 4 of those. And I can increase this number by here just by clicking on this number to increase how many of these patterns we want to have. That looks a little bit too much. How about 12? So 12 of those slots around a pattern. I can pattern them completely around using equal spacing, or I can turn that off. And I could change the degree or angle between one to make sure that I'm adjusting the pattern. Or I can even say equal spacing and say I only want to be between maybe 180 degrees. So it gives you only half of the pattern. But in this case here, I do want to use the 360, so I'm going all the way around. I'm going to continue using equal spacing. That should space them out nicely. And go ahead and click OK. And there's our circular pattern. The cool thing about the circular pattern, if you double click on any of the dimensions, maybe this one here, I'll change it to 5.0. All the pieces in the pattern automatically update and change. Because I'm changing that initial seed part, all the other parts that are patterned are going to automatically follow along. Using the simple sketch methodology, we really don't want to overuse this tool. However, in certain situations, it does come in very handy. The steps to follow are as simple as selecting the objects, choosing the directions, or choosing the center point of rotation.